Hi. Hello, everyone. Very good evening to you all. I hope everyone can hear and see me clearly. First and foremost, thank you so much for taking the time out this evening to join us for this momentous occasion. March is probably one of the most hectic months of the calendar year, but we really appreciate your presence today. My name is Gunjan Saha, and I lead marketing initiatives here at Vimo. In just a few more days, we'll be completing 1 year of the lockdown started. But putting aside the set of challenges for a while, 2020 will go down in history as the turning point in India's BFSI landscape. The CIO Association of India and Vimo want to celebrate the driving force that not only helped an entire industry stand strong amidst a crisis, but ushered in a new technological era. To imprint their contributions in the pages of history, we have compiled a set of stories from India's top IT leaders into the CIO Coffee Table book, Turning Adversity into Strength. Today, along with introducing the initiative to you, we will have with us Mr. Anand Pejawar, President of Operations, IT, and International Business with SBI Life Insurance, to share his thoughts on how the industry has shaped up in 2020. Following that, Yamini Bhatt, co-founder and CEO of Vimo, will be elaborating on some of the key takeaways from our conversations with the IT leaders. Later on in the evening, we'll be joined by some of the digital change makers featured in the book to hear directly from them how they battled the adversities of COVID-19. So without taking more of your time, to introduce the initiative to you all, we have with us Roshan Karyappa, Director of Marketing at Vimo, and Amrinder Singh, Chief Involvement Officer at the CIO Association of India. Roshan has led multiple cross-functional teams across sales, product, and marketing for over 13 years at growth stage startups. At Vimo, he heads the marketing function and is responsible for scaling growth across Asia, Japan, and the US. Good evening, Roshan. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thank you so much, Gunjan. Great to be here.
Joining Roshan, we also have Amrinder Singh, who is currently the Chief Involvement Officer at CIO Association of India. Just a few years ago, Amrinder discovered his passion to build and nurture professional communities and has since been working with the CAI. Uh, Amrinder, thank you so much for joining us. Amrinder, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, thanks, Gunjan. The pleasure and honor is all mine. Very delighted to be here.
Thank you so much, Amrinder. So, Roshan, Amrinder, could you tell us the idea that went behind in making the coffee table book?
Sure, will do. Thank you so much, Gunjan. And thank you, each of you who've taken time out of your busy schedules to join us for the event. I understand, as Gunjan mentioned, it's the busiest month of the year. So I really, really appreciate it. So around this time last year, we went into a lockdown with a lot of uncertainty and with not really knowing what to expect. And I'm sure that others will talk a little more about this. But looking back, it feels like we have emerged a lot stronger, not just as individuals, but as organizations, right? Um, so that's really what prompted us to document the wisdom and insights that leaders such as yourself brought to the fore in these difficult circumstances. So, talking a little bit about the initiative, we spoke to 16 leaders over the course of about 6 weeks, and we asked them three questions broadly. One, what changed last year? After the lockdown was imposed, what really happened? Two, what was the impact of these changes? How did your priorities change? And three, how do you see the future going forward? What would be the lasting impact of this, right? Now, bear in mind that we were asking these questions in September, so we were still not out of the woods yet. But the foresight that we heard from people was really amazing. And, Amrinder will definitely agree with this as well. Each of those interviews and conversations that we had were an amazing learning experience for all of us involved. I can speak for myself. I have a 15-member team, and these are people who wanted to work from home anyway, right? And moving these people to remote operations was challenging. But the way some of your organizations moved hundreds, if not thousands of people from very diverse backgrounds and functions at that to remote operations almost overnight without any disruptions to the customer communication and things to that effect. It was just phenomenal. And even up to the last conversation, one thing that we noticed was everyone brought a very unique perspective to the table. Um, it was, I guess, I mean, it's also very easy to get operational during these times, and nobody would really fault you for that. And a lot of the stuff was operational, right? A lot of people did speak about, providing laptops and so on and so forth. But the way the leaders were able to marry these, operational necessities with the broader strategic imperatives, I think that is really the defining factor, right? Which is also why I feel 2020 was a milestone event for the industry. We didn't just manage 2020; we came out of it just way stronger. So a huge round of applause, like a virtual applause for all of you. Now, as you can imagine, this was a very complicated initiative. 16 different organizations, 16 different people and teams, and in some sense, we were interrupting people during their day in these circumstances to really ask them what they were doing and how they were going about it. So it was wonderful that the leaders recognized the broader intent, and that was really heartwarming. The fact that each of these leaders, even though they were constrained by time and effort, they wanted to give back and contribute to the ecosystem in the middle of all of this, right? So the other thing is that I don't think it would have been possible without someone like Amrinder front-ending this, right? A lot of you may recall fond interactions with him, fond, I hope, right? So I will pass it on to him to describe his experience of putting this initiative together. And maybe, Amrinder, you could also talk a little bit from the perspective of the CIO Association of India. So, yeah, over to you, Amrinder. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts.
Yeah, thanks, Roshan. Thanks. I love the word fond which you use, right? And as Gunshan mentioned, there are two parts to my life, and I'm actually forgetting the first part of my life. My life really started when I got involved with professional communities, with the IO Association of India and Open Coffee Club Bangalore, which is one of India's oldest community for entrepreneurs. And I really love, what I do, and I'm very thankful to the community, for their love, for their time. So when we started, I think there were three very exciting things for us at the IO Association of India. The first one is that we started our journey in 2008, and we always wanted to build an inclusive community. And I think it's the first time in our journey in these 12, 13 years that we did a sector, an industry specific initiative. So what we did, this was specific to BFSI. So it was a first for us, and it was a good for us to learn about a specific sector, go deeper, and that was very exciting for us. The second is we've always been wanted to be a knowledge, research, and education driven organization. As compared to being an event-driven organization. So we love deep work, which is knowledge-oriented, and I think Coffee Table Book initiative gave us that opportunity. As Roshan mentioned, these conversations, 45 minutes long, 1 hour long, were very in depth, and they had very rich content. And this has been my personal belief, with due respect to all the research and the consulting organizations, out there, very prestigious brands. But we always feel that, learning or listening from the horse's mouth is the best, right? So in these interactions, some interactions were with CIOs, CTOs, and CISOs whom we knew and we had interaction in the past, and some interactions were new. And we realized that there is so much to know about the community, and we know very little. Even if you have had multiple interactions, you always find something new and different, and that's been a learning for us. So, so this will be a very proud initiative for us in terms of knowledge initiative. The third exciting thing for us was to work with in fact, I got introduced with Yamini many years ago when Waymo had just started, and it's very heartening to see how the organization has grown, has got customers across the globe. And even Roshan mentioned that we have had interactions in the past. So it is always it's a joy to work with people and to do something valuable for the community. And there has been a comfort, and a comfort is very necessary to be able to work. Yes, we had some challenges and hiccups, and it's been a learning exercise, I think, for all of us. Um, what we learned that last year, the COVID, and as Mr. Gautam Datta put it, that there is no way we can look at COVID in a positive way, because there has been so much loss of life and so much loss, so much suffering. But however, it did put a spotlight, on the CIO role, on the CISO role, on the CTO role, in enabling, business continuity, in enabling remote work, in quickly, getting hands dirty, pulling up the socks, and get the show running. And it was very good to, listen firsthand on what everybody went through. And I want to thank everyone for being very candid, for being very open, for sharing, what challenges, they went through. Uh, so these were three highlights for us: doing an industry specific, doing a knowledge initiative, working with Vimo, and listening, first time, listening from the horse's mouth. On a personal front, I had two learnings. One is that I think I learned to be a better listener. I think in order to get a lot more from the conversation, I think you have to really listen very intently, what the other person is saying, because they're trying to summarize, what they went through over a period of months in a quick period of time. And secondly, we believe that there are two kinds of learnings. There is some learning which is true. It was true in the past. It is true now, and it's going to be true in future. And then there is a contextual learning that because this happened and hence we did this. We were able to differentiate some aspects which is a classical learning which will stay forever, and then there are some which nuances got introduced. Uh, and lastly, it was great to see that there's been massive technology adoption within the enterprise. Even some groups of people who were not very enthusiastic. And I think one thing which stood out for me personally, there was a lot of empathy. So when we talk to all the IT leaders, I think there is a lot of concern that COVID was a very uncertain time for the economy, for society, for customers. But there was a lot of empathy about the customer, right? Whether we are able to reach him with the digital means or not. We have profile stories where the customers are in the rural areas, right? For them, cash is still the means to transact, right? We have a story of Puneet with Manapuram where the gold loan was very important. People were uncertain and they wanted to take a loan. So I think in spite of whatever challenges everyone was facing, there was a lot of focus on the customer and empathy, that how do we serve him in this time of need. And similarly, I think the employee engagement, which also some of you champion, I think it got extended from not only employee engagement, it also went to engaging with the employee families, and that's also what we learned. And we have had some very good interaction and some memorable moments. So without taking much time, I hand it over back to Gunjan. I want to thank all of you for your time. We're really proud of what we have. Thanks again. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Amrinder, Roshan, for those wonderful words. I think to make this, okay, I just realized my video was switched off. So I think to make this conversations more engaging, I would request everyone else to switch on their videos. All right. So I think we all can agree that the pandemic has indeed left a deep impact, not only globally, but also in the way we live and work, our economy, and of course, the financial sectors. So to highlight some of the changes that were catalyzed by COVID-19 in 2020, I'd like to welcome Mr. Anand Pejawar, President Operations, IT and International Business with SBI Life Insurance. A very good evening, sir.
Good evening to you, Gunjan. Thanks.
Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today evening. To tell you a bit about Sir, he brings with him over 32 years of experience working across banking and insurance sectors. Having started his career with Life Insurance Corporation of India, LIC, in the year 1983, he has then moved on to the banking sector only to return back to the insurance sector as well. He's very active on national and international forums and has been invited by the $1 Million Roundtable USA for its annual conventions, Asia Bank Assurance and Additional Distribution Congress organized by Asia Insurance Reviews, among others. So it's a pleasure to host you today, and I would love to hear from you as to how you have seen 2020 shape up the BFSI sector of India.
Thanks, Gunjan. Thank you very much for inviting me. My thanks also to Yamini and Roshan and my friend Rajesh and Amrinder for inviting me for this particular launch. My also compliments to all my friends from the CIO sector who have wonderfully penned their thoughts, their experiences, which will become thing for posterity for people to refer as and when maybe similar things might happen in future, and how the entire industry, the BFSI industry, shaped up and rose to this wonderful occasion. I'm using the word wonderful occasion, though some of you might not agree because of COVID. Yes, as Amrinder said, a lot of problems were faced by many of us and our loved ones. But on the corporate side, I think on the digital side, on the IT side, on the transformation side, if one does a SWOT analysis, 2020, we could say, was a complete physical washout. When I say physical washout, it's basically because BFSI forms the backbone of the entire economy in whichever country you operate. Whether it is your loans, banking, big commercial transactions, home loans, personal loans, education loans, all kinds of lending which happens, insurance, general life, health, all that which comes forms a huge backbone of the entire economy. And when that gets impacted in a situation which is once a century kind of a scenario, then the things completely go upside down. And the same thing happened with, I think, the BFSI industry and the entire economy in March last year. Exactly, I think, a year and 10 days earlier, I think 20th of March, we had the Janta curfew, and then we realized that most of us would have to work from home. And come March, that was March, at least in life insurance industry, many of my sector friends will agree, the most busiest part of the year is March, and that to the last 10 to 15 days, which got very, very badly impacted because of this. And almost overnight, people had to move from physical movement to digital movement. So a lot of companies had already embarked on the digital transformation path. But what happened in this was that the pandemic actually, according to me, gave a huge boost to this digital transformation. So I typically look at this from the stakeholders' point of view, how the stakeholders got impacted. Starting from the end customer to whom all of us actually work. So customers, our own distributors, whichever sector in BFSI we are, how those distributors got impacted, how the employees got impacted, and finally the regulator, how was his or their reaction to this, and how did they react to this. And I think the biggest compliment I think I should give to all the IT and digital heads is that the swiftness with which they moved on, the agility with which they turned around the table from a physical contact point to a completely remote contact point, from coming to office, working in office in a brick and mortar situation to work from home almost on an overnight basis. So overnight organizations had to move from brick and mortar presence to an offline work from home kind of a scenario. And all of this keeping in mind that each and every one of us has got a huge responsibility on the infosec security part of it. Obviously, as we were working overtime to get things worked out, I'm told that even the hackers were working overtime to try and see how they can hack one of the best systems in the country. And coming from an organization like SBI, the kind of work that has happened, and that has happened, I think, true with every organization, because we carry a lot of data for a long period and all that stuff. Keeping the data safe, ensuring that the data leakage doesn't happen, ensuring that the work doesn't get hampered, was one of the most priority parts for any one of us. Look at it, we never even thought in our lives, all of us have put in at least 20, 25, 30, 35 years of corporate experience. Nobody thought that we would have had to do a statutory audit offline. Statutory audit was always supposed to be face to face, fighting it out with the auditor, arguing with him, telling him what you have done is right, he trying to prove that what he's saying is right, and then come to some kind of a conclusion. And here you have landed up into a situation where you are working from home, he's working from home, and then you still ensure that the audit happens. Audit happens on time, audit happens in the way the quality of audit has to happen. And not only that, I think first time in the history, though regulators and everybody had authorized video conferencing for board meetings, nobody really went earlier for it. But come March, come April, every company that I know about had their board meetings on video conferencing facility. Now, these are certain things which I think none of us had even imagined, even in the month of December. And when I'm saying December 2019, that something like this would hit us in the month of March, and we would have had to make all the things ready almost overnight to get these things organized. But what happened in all of this? I think the swiftness and agility with all of, and the manner in which all of us worked out actually helped the entire BFSI industry. April, May, June was a complete washout. Obviously, not because of anything else, but because the environment was such, lockdowns, containment areas, people are not allowed to move around, talk around, go around, and all that stuff. But come the second half, October, November, December, one could see things moving in the right direction. What happened in all that? I think BFSI industry, which was supposed to be a face-to-face marketing kind of a structure, suddenly moved from physical contact to a remote contact. It moved away from face-to-face selling to a digital selling part of. So every organization has a digital app today which takes care of the sourcing part of it. And I'm only talking to the on the BFSI sector only. Okay, others have also got it, but I'll restrict my views on the BFSI sector. Now, with this, there was an urgent need to also digitize the back-end processes. Some of the companies are already started, they were midway into it or just started the process. But this had to be accelerated in a manner where the front-end digital processes had to equally match up with or rather the back-end processes had to match up with the front-end sourcing processes which were there. And all of this again on a work from home, remote environment that you have looked at. So this was something like a unprecedented kind of thing that happened, probably even in April, May, June, July, August, September, when sales was down, where other things were not happening. People are probably working from home. I think IT guys were the only guys who were working overtime to keep the lights on 24/7. I remember, at least in my company, we had done so much of work on the back end to ensure that not a single day the system goes off, including the trading which happens in an organization. So the dealing rooms, whether it is the the Bloomberg connections or the recording of the thing, everything was put in place, and that's true with every BFSI industry that I've spoken to, almost overnight. So that was something which was phenomenal. I think full credit to the IT heads, digital heads of various organizations, and everybody who looked at the IT ecosystem. What happened because of this? One could see a huge amount of investment in digital assets. Look at the amount of money spent by each of these companies. I think earlier, when a CIO used to present something to the board saying, I need to invest so much amount, there used to be always questions. Do you really need to do it now? Can we wait? Can we look at it in the next year? Can we look at 50% now and 50% in the next year? But 2020 has been whatever the CIO or the CISO comes and says, I need this to take care of it, that was done. I think that's something which has brought the entire focus on the digital platforms in the forefront. But I think the IT sector, the digital sector also in BFSI has actually proved it that whatever they had envisaged earlier and whatever they presented to the various boards, that if you invest so much, this is what we will get. This is the kind of ROI that we're looking at. This is the kind of return that we are looking at. And this is how various stakeholders will benefit out of this investment has actually paid off. Because I found a lot of companies investing hugely into IT, hugely into infrastructure security things, hugely into digital assets, trying to find out what is possible, whether you call it VDI, VPN, NAC, SOC, you can call it by any name. But the kind of investments that have happened in this field, I think, is phenomenal in 2020. Coming to the last part of it, when I look at it, what was it so great that we did? I think most critically we did was the ease of operations for various stakeholders, whether it's the customer at the front end. How does he use various apps? How does he use portals? How is it easy for him to get things done sitting in his comfort of his house itself, and still ensuring that he gets whatever he wants as if he's walked into a bank or walked into a NBFC or an insurance company to get his work done. I remember even insurance guys will agree with me that we had a huge issue with payment of annuities because we need this life certificates. And most of the companies today have ECOEs. So you need not visit the office, you need not visit a branch, sit in home, you get a Bitly link, open it, do your life certificate, and your annuities start flowing in. Now, the whole of thing was absolutely to try and see what were the pain points at various stages of your operations or customer service, and how these digital assets helped you in coming out with a right solution at the right time. So that's something I think which has happened fantastically well. So every organization has looked into their own pain points. Pain points, when I look at it from two angles. One is the pain point of the service provider themselves, and one is the pain point of the customer. And when I look at the customer, I look at the end customer and the distributor who is also a customer. Because if the distributor is not satisfied with the kind of applications or the solutions that you bring in, obviously it's not going to get adopted outside. So I think this was very well taken care of, the usability of it. More importantly, how can this help in customer satisfaction? And I'm very happy to see in a lot of organizations, the NPS has actually gone up. When I say NPS is net promoter score of companies providing this kind of service. And when you ask for a feedback, some of the feedbacks that we have got is fantastic. We never expected you to give such a wonderful thing in spite of the lockdown or corona being so bad. Your people have been in a position to respond as and when we call. Look at call centers. Call centers never had a thought that they would have to do call center operations from the house of the executives. They were not prepared. Some of the call centers were not at all prepared to provide this service. But I think they also rose up to the occasion and in the shortest possible time organized to get these things effectively operationalized from the various places. So I think it's a fantastic thing that has happened. Now, is this the new normal? I don't know. According to me, no. We have already seen the new normal. The new normal is actually we are meeting. Otherwise, I'm sure Yamini and Roshan and all would have done this launch in some 5-star hotel, calling all of us over high tea or something, and all of us sitting across and clapping our ways out and all that stuff. But here we are on a virtual platform trying to do this launch and get this thing done. According to me, I think the new normal is still to come. And when I say still to come, I think IoT is going to play a huge role in the new normal. Robotics is going to play a huge role in the back-end operational streamlining and getting it more digitized. I think humanoids are going to play a huge role. So there are so many things which are still in the pipeline, which some things have already looked at, some things are being experimented, some POCs are being worked out, and people are now looking at how to make this thing more and more user-friendly. I was joking to the Yamini and Rajesh and all. At one point of time, companies used to sell work from home as a perk. Our company has got this policy of work from home. So you twice in a month or 3 times in a month, or 4 times in a month you can work from home. And many people used to join these organizations, especially IT organizations, saying, sir, we can operate from home. Now everybody operates from home, so it's no more the cream that one can offer. So similarly, I think the new normal is still to come, and I think the new normal will be seen in, according to me, in 21, 22, when a lot of more of such automation and things will start coming up, and that's exactly where we will see how the IT industry will support NBFC in coming out with much better things. A lot of things are happening in the IT. I know robotics is a big thing which is working out in a very big way. Processes will be streamlined, processes will be re-looked at, remodeled, and all that. But frankly, I think the new normal is still to come. What we are seeing is only the middle part of the new normal that we are actually now on. And last but not the least, I think congratulations to all the 16 leaders, CIOs who gave their views in the book. Yamini and Gunjan shared a soft copy of that yesterday with me, and wonderfully you people have mentioned. I think I'm so happy that first time CIO and Waymo have come together to document this part. Otherwise, normally, coming from a marketing background, I have seen too many books, too many coffee table books on the marketing side, trying to document the marketing achievements of organizations, people, and all that. But it's the first time I think somebody has truly come out with a coffee table book on the IT side, the digital side, and the CIO's vision, CIO's foresight, CIO's way of looking at things, and the agility and swiftness with which all these guys have worked. So congratulations, Amrinder, congratulations, Yamini and Roshan, for this wonderful initiative. And I'm sure things will look much better this year, 21, 22. And I think next year, if you can have a similar function, I think you will see a lot of changes that you would have probably not even thought of when we are doing this discussion today. So thank you once again for inviting me to talk. Thank you for giving me time to express my views on this particular subject, on how, what, when, and things have happened, and what is my personal view on the future of it. And wish you all the very best for this launch of this book. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, sir, for those amazing insights and stories that you shared with us. 2020 has really indeed been transformational. But what actually made these transformations possible? To take us through this, to some of the highlights of the coffee table book, and to elaborate on some of the key points, I'd like to invite Yamini Bhatt, who's a co-founder and CEO of Waymo. Hi, Yamini. Good evening.
Hi, Gunjan. Thank you so much for the intro.
So I'll
go ahead.
To tell you a bit about Yamini, Yamini is recognized as a thought leader in driving sales transformation for enterprises. She co-founded Waymo in 2013, and Waymo has since then shaped up to be the distribution excellence cloud for financial services. And it has since its founding days been deployed for global giants like AXA, Allianz, AIA, Generali, and Sun Life, among others. Prior to starting Waymo, she was engagement manager at McKinsey, where she specialized in marketing strategy and sales and distribution across banking, credit, and insurance. Yamini, over to you.
Thank you so much, Gunjan. At the outset, thank you to everyone who has joined this session, and thank you to Mr. Anand Pejawar and the 16 IT leaders who have actually spent time to share their ideas with us and enable us to share your brilliant insights with everyone else who can now benefit from this, right? The whole experience, the 16 discussions, interviews, and this particular conversation with Mr. Pejawar have been hugely insightful and exciting for us in a time when all of us were obviously like the pandemic was a big shocker, but it was amazing to see how quickly everyone sat down to making a plan for adapting to it and making the most of it, right? That resilience was huge to see. And also, in a way, when we spent the last few months putting this book and theme together, it was really nice to get to chat with everyone, share mutual experiences on what we've been through during this time, and how, while it's tested us to the core, it's also been something that's made us all stronger, right? So 2020 will definitely go down as one of those years. I thought the best way to summarize what we have put together in the book is probably share things I took away from each of these meetings, right? So I've been given only 10 minutes, but I'll try to make the most of this. Firstly, there were 3 women on the 18 CIOs, on the list of 18 CIOs we interviewed. And I would love to wish Ms. Kirti Patil, Ms. Puneet Kaur, and Ms. Anjali Malhotra happy International Women's Day. And thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here this week, right? So I'll start with Kirti Patil, one of my first discussions with you, CTO Kotak Life. 2 things I took away from this very crisply. One is that all of us have learned that D2C is important, but also learned that branches and the in-person relationships will not disappear. And the second point I remember very well from our conversation is how mobility for back office was never thought of before as the place you need to optimize, right? And now with remote back office operations happening practically in all of these companies, this has become the way forward for many of us potentially. One of the most exciting conversations I've had was also with Mr. KV Deepu, President of Operations and Customer Service at Bajaj Allianz. Hi, Deepu, we have you here. Thank you for your time and thank you for joining us today. 2 points. Obviously, Mr. Deepu's conversation started by saying that Yamini, someone wise said, there are decades when weeks happen and weeks when decades happen. And this was one of those set of weeks, right? Mr. Deepu had so much to share with us. I just cannot capture it in one sentence. You'll have to definitely go through the book. But what was amazing was how there has to be something that centers us towards what we are solving for. And for Bajaj Allianz General, this was customer feedback. So constantly being able to have ears to the ground, listening to customer feedback, and that defining a whole roadmap for innovation this year was amazing. We met Mr. Parag Kulkarni, CISO of Bajaj Finance, one of the few CISOs that we interviewed. And again, sir, thank you so much for making time. His perspective was very interesting. Everyone spoke about and worked heavily on how to ensure business continuity for themselves. Mr. Kulkarni also spoke about how from the very beginning, business continuity of their third parties was one of the top of mind pieces that centered what Bajaj Finance led as digitization and technology and risk management initiatives, right? So that was great to hear. Ms. Puneet Kaur, CIO, Manappuram Finance. Again, happy Women's Day. What blew me away was that this team was a 20-member team creating solutions for about 30,000 employees and third parties, which is 1:1,500 ratio. Just a 20-member team that automated about 130 processes practically in a matter of a few months and maybe a quarters, right? And that probably is mind-blowing in terms of what necessity can lead us to. This is definitely a scenario where probably a decade of innovation happened within a few weeks. We spoke with Mr. Prasanna Lohar, head of technology at DCB, and their primary focus throughout this time was to smoothen sales operations for every person who was interacting with customers. And they launched Zippy, they launched video KYC, which again was a very popular theme throughout the last few months on being able to enable video KYC and smoothen out sales operations, right? So that's what we heard from him too. Mr. Akhlaq Bari, CTO of Fullerton, very interesting conversation. I loved how his big emphasis was on the fact that in this time, like never before, it was startups that helped Fullerton be agile and be cost friendly in terms of being able to adapt to the new context, right? And that's a big hat tip to all the startups who enabled this kind of transformation to happen, not just across Fullerton, but across the whole industry. So thank you so much, Mr. Bari, for that, resounding support. Mr. Shubhajit Roy, SVP IT, SBI Mutual Fund. Very interesting how businesses at this scale leveraged simple technologies like WhatsApp so effectively, right? We heard this theme recurring across many institutions. for how WhatsApp was rethought, and the journeys for customer engagement as well as employee performance were driven through existing technologies, which everyone sees almost 100% adoption on, right? Like WhatsApp. So that was pretty interesting. We spoke with Mr. Gururaj Rao, CIO of Mahindra Financial Services. We love one of the things that he said. He talked about how the big focus became to be able to learn what winning behaviors are within the teams. And we love this keyword. We love winning behaviors because Wimo's whole, we like helping sales teams do more. And we do that by identifying what winning behaviors are amongst the top sellers, and being able to nudge everyone to mimic this, right? So when he used the word, we got so excited. But their big focus was identifying winning behaviors amongst top performers and being able to learn from that and propagating that to the rest of the orgs, right? I think that involved multiple levels of transformation, but also an end-to-end, I believe, cloud-based HRMS and distribution system that they set up. Continuing, we spoke with, I remember this conversation with Miss Anjali Malhotra. If you're here again, happy Women's Day. Chief Customer, Marketing, Digital, and IT Officer. It's quite a range, you know, it's like in the center of three rivers meeting kind of a situation of Aviva India, right? And I love, like, this was a very wow interview for us because it was amazing how many themes Aviva Life was working on at that point in time. And their whole motto was to be able to create many, many wow experience for different micro segments. And this went beyond just enablement of sales teams or employees or operations, and even sometimes beyond like specific customer workflows, right? So there were things like video KYC and mobility, which were prioritized. But also what was interesting were things like Kidoscope, which was meant for parents to enable their child learning on. And there was a tool that they built, Aviva team built on being able to help some of the elderly customer segments actually create their will and have it supported by actual legal help, right? Which is such a simple process, but maybe not an overly complicated process, but something that's not fairly common in this geography, right? And I thought many of these were micro initiatives, but such huge impact for the target customer base, right? So that was very interesting to see. We spoke with Mr. Arpanarghya Saha, Nippon Mutual Fund. Another interesting conversation, one line. There's so many punchlines in these interviews, and this is one, right? So FOS, which is the term for feet on street, he talked about how this has now become fingers on screen, right? And the whole theme around digitization within Nippon was around how to enable fingers on screen, where they enabled feet on street before. So DIY customer experiences and experience for their sales teams were priority front and center. We spoke with Mr. Rupesh Mehta, IT head at Aegon Life, right? And how one of their mottos that helped push them to adapt and transform fairly quickly was to ensure that nothing in operations and customer service and support faced even the most minor hiccup as part of their promise to their customer base, right? So that was an amazing motto to work behind. We spoke with Mr. Gautam Datta, CIO, Bajaj Allianz Life. And again, there was this recurring theme of about how WhatsApp was used as a widespread channel for iServe, and how co-browsing and smart assisting, how helped improve sales processes and conversions, because this was human-assisted selling, right? Not robotic completely, but where the advisor couldn't meet face-to-face, they were able to do smart browsing alongside the customer to be able to ensure minimization of drop-offs through different customer journeys, right? That was very interesting. We spoke with Mr. Mukesh Malik. I'm starting to... This was one of my childhood dreams. When I was 5, I wanted to be a newsreader. But we spoke with Mr. Mukesh Malik, COO of Aditya Birla Capital. One of their proudest moments this last year was when they became the first financial institution, I guess, in the country where the entire call center was moved to public cloud. And every sales journey was virtualized, right, in a short span of time. So that was amazing to see. And the many Aditya Birla Group companies that we work with, and we are very proud to be part of that transformation. We've spoken with Mr. Akshay Dhanak, CIO, Magma, CIO, Magma FinCorp. And I love one of the things that he said, which was that digital is not a lever, it's not leapfrogging, it's not even like hygiene anymore. It's an obligation that we hold to our customer. It's right, and we owe it, and we better close that gap if we don't have it, right? I love how also he spoke about security, hesitation around cloud, which could influence agility, right? And I love how he thought about it. He said they have ensured that systems of record stay in private cloud and systems of engagement move to public cloud, right? So that was a really interesting way to put it. And we see that all the time where CRMs are systems of record and there is a lot of sensitivity on where you host it. Wimo is a system of engagement. What you need is continuous innovation, improvement, and agility. And that's mostly hosted on public cloud in most of our situations, right? Lastly, we spoke with Mr. Nitin Agarwal, CIO, Edelweiss Financial Services, Group CIO. And I think their motto was pretty straightforward, right? Give us KPIs that you want to transform. Any business leader, pick up a metric and say you want to move the needle on this metric. And that's the problem statement you give us. And we find the solution, right? And any solution, the criteria would have to hit market in less than 3 months. And that became their motto and creed for how they identified projects, created a roadmap for themselves, and ensured that change not just hit market, but people have to react quickly to COVID. You adapt, but you adapt while the pandemic is going on, right? And it enabled them to do that. That was record speed 15 conversations summarized for you. And as you can see, this was super interesting, engaging, exciting, and learning, and a big learning experience for us. Again, I heartfully thank all of you for the time that you've given us, and your openness in sharing so much of what could have been perceived as your secret sauce back with this audience. So thank you. And with that, I believe I hand over back to Gunjan for us to take to the next session.
Hey, Amni, thank you so much for taking us through all the people we interviewed for the book. Next up, we have Rajesh Sablo, who is the Chief Customer Officer of Wimo, to host a AMA session with all the people who are present here with us today. Rajesh is a veteran in the financial services industry in Asia Pacific. And prior to joining Wimo, he served as the APAC Head of Strategy and Innovation for Willis Towers Watson, a global multinational risk management, insurance brokerage, and advisory firm. Over there, for over 12 years, he assisted leading financial services organizations on market entry, business and product strategy, distribution strategy, and other bespoke consulting requirements. Hey, Rajesh, good evening. How are you doing?
Thanks, Kunjan. Doing very well. And I wouldn't call myself a veteran with Anand Pejawar here. Yeah. So yes, thanks for having me on the event today.
Thank you so much, Rajesh, for taking the time out.
All right. So in the next session, as Gunjan was pointing out, I think given that we have the CIOs here who contributed to the coffee table book, and thank you very much once again for your contributions. So very quickly, I might just introduce yourself and then ask a few questions if that's okay, in terms of the format of what we're going to do today. So I might want to start with we're starting with Mr. KV Deepu.
We'll start with Mr. Ikhlaq Bari.
Okay. So Mr. Ikhlaq Bari, welcome. And just giving an introduction to Mr. Bari. Mr. Bari has over 22 years of experience working in senior leadership roles, both in India and abroad. And he's played a crucial role in Fullerton India's evolution as a digital first organization, implementing the latest technologies to drive revenue, reduce cost, and improve customer experience. He's known for his digital transformation expertise and his understanding of how technologies interact with human behavior, has enabled him to drive transformational mandates, delivering tangible business outcomes as a consequence. And in terms of so Mr. Bari, welcome again. I just wanted to ask a few questions based on the interview that we had with you. The first question is around during the interview you spoke about how the digital way of building relationships was given a tremendous fillip during the pandemic when customers couldn't visit the branches and sales reps couldn't visit customers' homes. So could you please elaborate on what changes stood out for you in that situation?
Yeah, thank you very much, Rajesh, YMO team, IMA, everyone. Before I answer that question, with your permission, I have 3 comments that I'd like to make. First, I want to say hello to a lot of familiar faces on this call. Kirti, hi, long time no see. Deepu, how are you doing, man? I don't know why you are hiding behind the camera. Anand, I think last time we met, it was in Philippines. If you remember, we had a good time. And I know Amrinder, how are you doing? I know you organized this. So good to see all of your faces. Then a couple of comments to Yamini. First, the people who interacted with me, Roshan and Gunjan, the first time I looked at them, I thought, they are underage. And you are into child labor now, so you must double check on the birth certificate. Roshan is a great singer. I mean, he came to interview me. I made him do a performance, and he sang beautifully. So if you guys have some time, you should definitely get him to perform today also. And I also heard from the team that you were present in all interviews except mine. So I do understand that Fullerton is not important to you.
We will meet in Philippines.
All right. So now about that question. Okay, sorry for a long-winded, but I had to say hi to some of the people that I've seen. All right. So, see, during the pandemic, one buzzword that became very popular was touchless, right, and contactless. And to that, it wasn't touchless and contactless. It was touchless as in there was no physical touch. Okay. But it wasn't touchless and it wasn't contactless. In fact, the number of times you would reach out to the customer and you touch the customer digitally and you would contact the customer digitally actually increased. So whatever you had to do, whether it was sales or collections or a servicing call, what could have been achieved in one interaction, face-to-face interaction, took multiple digital interactions. Sometimes it got solved in a single digital interaction, but no stretch of imagination, it was contactless or touchless. So it was a challenge that despite the pandemic and despite the lockdown, you had to be in touch with your customer, you had to serve your customers, and to whatever extent your business was open, you had to work on acquiring customers. So that's what I meant by, it has changed the way we interact with our customers.
Thanks, Iklag. I think that's really true. The way you mentioned about it not being contactless and touchless. So we still had to maintain both these aspects of dealing with our customers and engaging with them. The other thing that was intriguing to me and in the interview that we had was about the new term that you introduced at that point called diversibility. And you mentioned that and what we wanted to understand here is we would like you to explain what you meant by diversibility, and also why should IT leaders be aware of it?
Yeah, what I meant by diversibility is when you and this is how the software industry runs. OEM, Oracle, SAP, they have built multi-billion-dollar business on this, because they know once you get into their software, there is no getting out. So it is a marriage with a very expensive divorce clause or no divorce clause at all. So they would do anything to get into the account, but they will make it very cheap, at least initially by SAP, Oracle, and I'm just picking up on them. It's true for almost anyone. They're not cheap to start, but they're relatively cheaper. But over a period of time, I mean, we have a LMS system. I'm not going to name the OEM, The initial project cost was imagined to be X crores. And in 10 years, we have spent around 7x. So what was thought to be, what started as a project of X crores, changes, enhancements, upgrades, technical upgrades, you do. Now you would ask the question, okay, if it is that expensive, change. It's just that changing it is going to cost you another 4x or 5x. So the divorceability is non-existent. It is, and if you have to divorce, it will be a very expensive divorce.
I understand. A very nice parallel drawn there as well. Thank you for that. Thank you for your candid feedback here as well in comments. Moving, is there anybody has any questions for Mr. Bari before we maybe move on to our next panelist?
Bari, only one thing, you have given a option now to WIMO guys also to ensure divorceability. That is why this is a question as a bit uncomfortable asking, because answering, because WIMO will do the same thing with you, right?
No, you don't have to worry. No one says we are cheap in the beginning. No one says we are cheap.
All right.
Good one.
Yeah. Right. So moving on, given I think we have limited time today. So the next person I guess we would talk to today on the panel is Mr. Deepu, Mr. KV Deepu. He is the president and head of operations and customer service, Bajaj Allianz General Insurance Company. And Mr. Deepu has spearheaded multiple digital transformation programs, leveraging startups from fintech and insurtech globally, while leading a team of around 1,000 people across 220 locations. With 23 years of experience, Mr. Deepu's forte is merging digital transformation with deep domain expertise and Six Sigma rigor to redesign the business model for operational excellence and customer delight. Bajaj Allianz General Insurance Company has twice been awarded the Digital Insurer of the Year across Asia. So, Mr. Deepu, many congratulations to the organization and yourself for that awards that you've received.
Thank you, Rajesh. Thank you so much for your kind words and your very warm introduction.
You're welcome. So thanks for participating in our program as well, Mr. Deepu. And the question I have for you, based on what we heard during the interview process, you mentioned that how you leverage customer feedback during the lockdown to release new products like Doctor on Chat and Social Track Back. Could you please take us through the process you went through? How did you really use this information and to come up with new product ideas itself, which is very, very interesting?
Yeah. So Rajesh, firstly, just a small technical correction. These are not new products, but new features, for customers.
Or new features.
So
Okay.
yeah. So essentially, what we were articulating is the fact that when you listen to customers, we're all good at meeting customers' stated needs. But very often customers have, latent unarticulated needs, which even they may not be aware of. So it calls for deep listening. And if you can get that act right, then you stay ahead of your, peers and you stay ahead of, the industry. So when COVID-19 started, right, at that time, everybody was focused on digitizing the physical in terms of converting work from office to work from home. So in a way, it was, a copy paste, effort, right, in simple terms. But when we were listening to customers, we figured out that they had some deep needs. So for example, at that time, nobody could go to the hospital, either because of a lockdown-induced situation or because, hospitals prioritized COVID-19. So we said, if people have simple ailments, how can we help them? And that's when, in a very agile manner, we enabled this Doctor on Chat feature on our mobile app. So all customers had to do was log into our mobile app, get a digital consultation with our set of empaneled doctors, and then they just have to go and buy medicines. And medical shops are always exempt from any form of lockdown. So it just made it very easy for customers, right? Similarly, when contact tracing as a term came in, and that didn't exist prior to the onset of COVID-19, we came out again with a feature on a mobile app, appropriately called Social Trackback, whereby they could log in their contacts. And then once you have a record, once you have a log, then it's fairly easy for you to do a track back. In case you get infected, whom to inform. Otherwise, how do you remember whom all you met? And similarly, if you have met, somebody in your social circles, who has been infected, you can go back and confirm, did I actually meet that person? So that again, was a feature which, made our customers, happy. Similarly, when they wanted to get themselves, tested, we came out with the COVID-19 self-assessment AI-driven bot. So I think a lot of features that we enabled, digitally on our mobile app without customers asking for them, I think went a long way towards, enhancing our customer experience. It was digital and it was safe because customers could, access these features from the comfort of their home. And when we got an independent NPS done, we found that we enjoyed the highest NPS in the industry on health and, of course, other lines of business. Even from a regulator's perspective, we are the player with the lowest grievances. So I think these metrics indicate, that we did something right for customers. So that was the journey that we spoke about.
That's excellent, Deepu. And it appears that this will also pave the way for digital insurance, Insurer of the Year award this year as well to you, I guess.
Well, all I can say is you're my friend. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, the other thing that we wanted to ask Mr. Deepu was everybody has to work with partners. It's not just the conglomerates and the ecosystem has also become important contributors now, contributions, providing a better understanding of how partner engagement works. How do you manage to coordinate work amongst them during this lockdown?
So I think, Rajesh, firstly, the words that you used, you said you used two words, conglomerates and ecosystems. So today, actually, what we see, it's actually a movement from a conglomerate to an ecosystem, because you can't do everything on your own. You need to work with an ecosystem of partners. And I think an absolutely, topical question. So Rajesh, what digitization does, because ours is a partnership-led business. Insurance is a push product and it's distribution-led. So digitization helped us. It does not replace distributors, but it helped us enable them. So, for example, our partners could carry out processes at their end. They could issue insurance policies at their end, and that's anyway our core product. Customers come to us to buy insurance policies. Similarly, if customers wanted some servicing, once the policies were issued, if they want to get some changes done, those changes also, our agents could do at their end. And we made it very simple. So we always have standard operating procedures. What we did during the lockdown was we converted them into video forms. So simple 2-minute videos, how to raise a refund, how to raise a claim, how to issue a policy. So we would send the video to them over WhatsApp. They would go through the video, understand it, understand how to perform the activity, and then, carry out the activity. And similarly for customers as well, whether it was raising claims, we enabled, upload of documents through the app. So our services continued, absolutely, uninterrupted, during the entire lockdown. In fact, we did not just survive, but we actually thrived through it, because I think the entire digital way of working and living, so to speak, just made it, a win-win-win for everyone, because now there is no transmission loss, there is no time taken, the long cycle, processes get shortened to, immediate fulfillment. So, it was digital all along, combined with loads of training and empathy. And I think, that's what helped us sail.
Excellent. Excellent. Thanks, Mr. Deepu. Any questions for Mr. Deepu?
No questions, but two things. First, Deepu, I said hi to you. You did not say hi back to me.
I'm so sorry, Eklag. I expected this from you. Being my dear friend, you are the only one who tells me this. I'm so sorry, and hi to you. Big hi to you.
Let me make a debit entry in the emotional bank balance account. And second, Deepu, congratulations for the multitude of awards, but more importantly, for the digital transformation that is happening in your company. I think aside from the awards, true digital transformation is what pays back to the company. And it's great to be working for an organization like that. So congratulations.
No, thanks, Eklag. Thank you for your kind words, and kudos to you too, for having done this, the various firms that, you have also worked in. And just for the audience who is listening, Eklag and I go back a long way. We work together in GE, and, we are good friends, although we haven't been able to meet for a while. So his hi, Eklag, I'll return that, with a hug, whenever I'm able to meet you, COVID-19 permitting.
Done.
Thanks, Eklag, and thanks, Mr. Deepu. Next on, I think let's have a chat with Mrs. Kirti Patil, who is the Joint President IT and CTO at Kotak Mahindra Life Insurance Company Limited. Having joined in 2003, she has been instrumental in giving Kotak Life's tech strategy a cutting edge by implementing several transformational initiatives, including the mobile-based selling, video-based customer calling, OCR, ICR-based BPM, RPA, bots, etc., to improve customer experience. With over 2 decades of experience spanning the manufacturing and BFSI sector, Kirti has won several industry accolades for her initiatives. Thank you, Ms. Kirti, for being part of this initiative and being with us here today.
Thank you, Rajesh, for the flattering introduction. And I wanted to say something before you ask me any question. Okay. I always believe that COVID has not changed any of us, right? And what Eklak started off with, I tend to agree. He is just the same. Eklak, thank you for bringing the smiles on everybody's faces. And I can say for sure we have not met for a long time, but you've absolutely not changed at all. And I did say hi to you.
Yes, you did, Kirti. Kudos to you. You get a credit entry into your emotional bank account.
Thank you so much. Yeah, over to you, Rajesh. And thank you. So thank you, Rajesh. Thank you, Yamini. Thank you, Gunjan, Roshan, and Amrinder. I think the coffee table book has come out extremely well. Actually, it took a while for it to come out, and I thought that maybe it is not relevant anymore because we have spoken so much about the pandemic and what all of us have done over this period. But I think the book has come out extremely well. Thank you. Kudos to you.
No, thank you so much. It's been a joy. Yes, it took us time, but when you go back and you read it, right, those insights are very, very valid and useful.
Yes.
Yeah. Rajesh.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mr. Thanks, Ms. KP. So just on the question with Kotak Mahindra already had a business continuity plan in place, which accommodated for work from home settings, as we understand. So what were some of the new set of challenges that emerged that you hadn't anticipated once everyone started working from home?
Like I mentioned, our business continuity plan always said that people will work from home. We had not invested in any alternate location, but that was only for the critical processes for critical people, right? It was not implemented for the entire organization. Even for those critical processes and those critical people, nobody imagined that they are going to work 12 hours a day for months together, right? So that was really the first challenge. And for some of the people, we had to procure laptops, right? Because they did not have anything at home. They had never used a laptop. Okay, so we actually had to teach them how to use a laptop. And it may sound a little funny, but that is where it was. The challenges because of this were first challenge, okay? People did not have infrastructure at home, okay, to work continuously. Network bandwidth was a challenge, right? Uh, the second thing was while processes were digitized, there were a little bit of physical elements in each process. So in some processes, we needed to take printouts, right? We were just not there with digital signatures everywhere. And I'll give an example. Okay, insurance was classified as essential services in the very beginning, and a lot of the IT work is done by contract staff. We wanted them to travel to office to basically to manage the data center. Now they were not our employees, so they were not permitted to travel. So I was supposed to give them a letter, okay, issue a letter on the letterhead, and the ecosystem was not ready to accept an email. Right now, how could I do that? So that was one challenge that we faced. Some contracts, where digital signatures are not accepted. The third one was really the telephony requirements. And I think Anand did speak about the contact center. And the BCP strategy for the contact center was having an alternate location. And we were fortunate enough that our alternate location was in Calcutta. So when Mumbai went into lockdown, Calcutta was still operational. But after that, they also went into lockdown. And while DOT did give some relaxations, it was a challenge, right? For people to take calls on their mobile phones, even access their applications on the mobile phones. But even the IT help desk, right? Everybody wanted to reach out to IT because everybody, I mean, without us, people couldn't really manage. And that contact center was just not ready to work from home. But I think all teams really worked very hard and overcame these challenges. The next challenge was really that the technologies that were deployed for working from home. And I remember initially I used to go to business and say, we have this technology, why don't you let people work from home? Nobody wanted to work from home at that time, and these came to our rescue. But those were not really built or tested for specific needs. For example, our developers, right? While that was not a critical service, after 2 months that became a critical service, right? Because we had to develop very quickly. So how do we manage some of the things that were built but not tested for? Uh, Physical presence was required in the data center. So how do we manage that? But like I said, we did overcome these challenges. People did travel to office. Our data center guys stayed back at work. Partners also rose up to the occasion. We worked with a lot of startups, like Eklak mentioned, and were able to manage the situation quite well. Today, today I think working from office will perhaps be a challenge for most of the people now.
Yeah, you feel the people got used to working from home, Kirti?
They have become used to working from home. Because I see that people are okay to go to a mall, okay to go to a restaurant, but you say come to office, they say, oh, why office? COVID is
Right.
still around.
Yeah, completely true. Thanks, Kirti. I think I can understand the challenges you mentioned. Some of this we could relate to as well within our organization, what we heard from other clients too. The other question, Kirti, I had for you was you mentioned that digital tech won't reach optimum performance and productivity levels unless the adoption of the tech reaches a critical mass. And that's very true, right? Unless adoption happens, nothing will really matter. But how do you drive adoption at Kotak then?
See, co-creation. Okay, while earlier also we used to co-create, I
Yeah.
think during the pandemic, co-creation just took a different meaning. We used to have senior leadership meetings twice a day in the beginning, then once a day, and so on and so forth, where we used to look at all the pain points, right? Uh, and so one is the co-creation. Two is solve the current problems, immediate problems. Okay, gone were those days where we would plan big projects. And I think somebody said 90-day life cycle for a project, but at that time it was not even a 90-day. What can we deliver quickly in 10, 15 days? So solve current immediate problems, shorter life cycles, and co-create. That is one.
Hmm.
Two is track the adoption till we at the highest level, and a project is not closed till the adoption reaches a critical mass. So the project teams are also responsible along with the business teams to ensure adoption, and that we are continuing doing today also. We used to do that in the past, but the scale at which it happened during the pandemic was phenomenal. Third is, how do we create training and awareness around whatever we are building? Because one has to understand that it is very easy for us to build this. We build it, we understand it, but the feet on street or the finger on screen, okay, as we want to call them today, they don't understand perhaps all of this. Okay, what comes to them naturally is perhaps a WhatsApp. Okay, so while we will build tools which are as simple, it is important that they are aware of what we are building. There are simple bite-sized training modules available so that the adoption increases. But all these three things, while we do, the real credit of the adoption goes to the pandemic, the COVID situation, right? I mean, there was just no choice. Okay, uh, even if we had done all these three things in a non-pandemic situation, I'm not sure whether the adoption would have reached this
That.
stage, that stage. And also, some of the solutions that we built during this time, as a CIO, I might not have built those solutions earlier. Like, how do we reach out to our customers virtually, sitting from home? Our feet on street are at home, customers at home. And while we are all comfortable with the Zoom, customers were not, because they were not sure whether this call is really coming from a Kodak Life representative or not. So
Hmm.
we built a virtual platform like Zoom, and which is being used by our team. And I don't think a year ago I would have said that I want to invest money in this kind of a platform, but that was the need of the hour. We quickly implemented it. It was a minimum viable product, and the adoption is phenomenal.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Kirti. Thanks for sharing. The great work that has happened at your organization. Anybody, any questions for Kirti before we move to Rupesh?
So, Kirti, congratulations. Great to hear so much digital transformation happening in life insurance. I know how difficult that is, and the agility that you're talking about, even less than 90 days, that's absolutely great. Fantastic to hear. Hey, Rajesh, I got to drop off, but before I drop off, just one comment on Amrinder's hairstyle. If you remember Salman Khan from Tere Naam.
No, I don't, but I stepped down. I went down in the apartment, and a couple of guys was kind of referring something like that.
That's one of the most. I think Salman Khan's one hairstyle that became very popular. वो जैसे बोलते पूरे बॉम्बे में world famous है ना, वो this one is it. All right, I'll send one pic for you. But it was absolutely great interacting with all of you. I'm sorry I got to go on a call with the CRO.
But before you do, can we just take a selfie? I think quickly.
Yeah, that should be good. Yeah.
And Eklak, since you said hair, I couldn't resist. I envy you guys that at least you can discuss hairstyles, right? You have a choice.
Maybe I'll hold the book and.
Yeah, if everybody has the physical copy, maybe everybody can hold it if they have it.
Yeah,
I don't have my copy yet.
Oh, you don't have your copy yet. Okay.
Oh, I also just. Okay, if
I
you
would
have
request everyone to switch on their videos.
yeah. I don't have my copy yet, but I have my coffee. Would that do?
What is that? Yes.
And Eklak, you're famed biryani as well. When we meet, you need to serve me that.
यार 1 लाख इतना सब बोल के अमरिंदर का भाव बढ़ा दिया तुमने. अभी नेक्स्ट टाइम से वो मिलेगा नहीं हमसे आके. बोलेगा सलमान खान से मिल रहे हो करके.
Right. Today is a double happiness: the coffee table book launch as well as the compliment of life. I'll remember.
Amrinder is a very humble person. Humility is there. Lord. All right.
Thanks so much. Yeah, we can. Gunjan, have you done the needful?
All right, we'll just take a couple of screen grabs. All right, Sechi's. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Bali, for taking the time out and joining us today.
Thank you, guys. Take care. Have fun. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye. We'll miss you.
Jish, with your permission, I'll also sign off. I have a meeting at 6 o'clock.
Sure, Mr. Bali. Well, thanks for joining, Anand.
Yeah, thanks, Kirti. Nice talking and nice seeing you and hearing you after a long time. Bye. And
Yeah, Anand, take care.
Shamini, thanks a lot. See you soon in Bombay, as and when you are. Amrinder, bye.
Yeah, bye, sir. Thank you so much.
Bye.
All right, Rajesh, you can move on to the next person.
Yeah, so I was talking to Rupesh, who's the Vice President IT, Aegon Life Insurance. Hi, Rupesh. And thanks again for all your contribution in being here today. Just giving a brief profile and overview of Rupesh. With over 17 years of work experience in leading technology teams across different sectors, from infrastructure to telecom, from IoT to BFSI. So Rupesh is known for his business acumen and strong technical knowledge, being recognized amongst the top 15 thought leaders by BFSI Innovation and Technology Summit. Rupesh brings a rich experience of delivering complex business-focused technology initiatives. In his earlier role as CTO, Rupesh has been instrumental in launching digital health insurance. In his recent deliverables as VP IT at Aegon Life, he has successfully enabled his organization to work from anywhere. Welcome, Rupesh, once again. And just on the questions, Rupesh, you spoke about a cross-functional crisis management team during our interview that was set up with various diverse stakeholders. Can you talk through that and explain to us how your team overlapped with other functions and became a fulcrum for everyone to do their job?
Sure. And first of all, thanks for that introduction. A quick one. Basically, after that, the humor and don't want to make the people more serious. So that's let's continue on that lighter note. This was not the case when all of us entered the pandemic situation. I am sure, while we can look back at those things and now we can laugh, but those were not the days for us to take those lightly. And yes, one of the key things that we did, which is what I had mentioned in my the discussion, is we as an organization, we took up this entire thing. I mean, we do have a CMT teams, and I don't want to just say it, but most of the things, most of the times you have this crisis management teams are just a representations, so you don't have really people, and you never think, that will be so much of importance. So, but in this kind of situation, it become all the more important for us. So all of us became the part of that crisis management team. Right from CEO, all the leadership team was also part of that. And one of the key things that we did was daily stand-up. This was a time when you start the morning and by the evening you have the changes happening on the strategy. So I have completely echo the point which some of other panel members said that 90-day strategies and other things, those were not the case when we started off with this. It was like every day morning you get up and first thing that goes to your mind is, okay, what is the today's challenge? How do I cater to today's situation so that I can start getting the things to more stable level. Along with the CMT team, another thing that I personally did was on the communication front. from team perspective side. So getting more and more communication to the internal stakeholder was a key. People were not able to see each other. All of a sudden, people were disconnected. So because of that, the confidence level was going very low, to the people. Okay. Even though things were there in place, many times it was lack of confidence with the people. They say, I don't know whether it is working or not. And one person says, I am sure many of the panel member in the IT would have felt that one person says the things are not working, you will start getting the echo of that. Okay, things are not working, things are not working. So this is very difficult to handle it, and the only thing that can help in this kind of things is over communicate. That's a mantra that we had followed. So in fact, from the team perspective also, the crisis management team meetings every day, ensuring that giving the status updates. Yes, we had issues yesterday. Yes, the issues, number of issues that were there. These are the details. This is how we are progressing. So the status was very much visible across all the stakeholders, and that gave the confidence that no, something, we are coming out of this. That was a key. And rest of the things, I'm sure everybody. I mean, all of us are on the technology platform. So whatever best we could do, we did it. But crisis management team and that communication, cross collaboration was a key, because getting those stakeholder buy-in. In the beginning, we discussed about the dealing rooms, contact centers. These were key challenges with probably everybody of us. I mean, same with us, contact centers and other things. So that's where the crisis management team coming into the picture, getting those communications done. Changing strategies sometimes also helps. Business may not be able to operate the same way they used to do. And that's also something as a technology leader, we need to step in and say that, something, this is a pandemic situation. Let's change the way how we used to operate. So that also can help sometimes. So those all things we did as a crisis management team. And let me say, it was not purely only crisis management team. It was a day-to-day working committee, which was there, and that put together the things in place. And IT played, as I said, the role of enabler in this entire thing. So that was the whole idea.
Yeah, excellent, Rupesh. Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to also check with you was regarding the third-party channels, the multiple third-party channels that you deal with. So who are all the various at various points in their digital journey, right? So these third-party players may not be digitally advanced as you are. So how did you manage this difference in their digital maturity levels, and let's say obviously at Aegon?
So maybe I would not say the credit in case of this particular thing for IT, because more or less the ecosystem that we had of the PG. In fact, we had engaged with many of the. Am I audible, or is it?
You're audible, yeah.
Perfect, because it shows a connection issue. Yeah, perfect. So it was the partnership ecosystem, which is digitally enabled kind of a thing. So that was not too much of a challenge. But I would try to take this into different way when it comes to the technology support partners. When it comes to other ecosystems, there were challenges over there. One of the things that did, and one of the example that or anything at that point in time was difficult. So what we did was basically providing them the digital interface, which is a VDI logins, and that helped us. So basically this did not emphasize on giving a physical asset. It just that helped us that okay, you have some home computer, login from there. So, and also taking care of the security aspects, right? And that's how. But yes, again, there has to be a lot of hand holding done. Typical issue, internet issues. So when people started using that, all of a sudden we started getting IT help desk getting ringing, and then something, this doesn't work, this is crap.
Right.
So that's the first right of refusal always comes very very quick. This doesn't work. It is not something which we will be able to deal. So panic starts creating on that also. And we said, okay, let us have the troubleshooting. We went to the level of checking the bandwidth at the user's home, providing them those self-analysis tool that if your bandwidth, if the ping response is this, then you check out with your operators that can help you. This all things were taking time, but then the confidence started building up that yes, if the basic infrastructure is there in place, things works very fine. I mean, there is no problem in that. So that's how we manage the things with the partners ecosystem as well as our ecosystem also.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks, Rupesh.
Thank you.
Anybody, any questions from what Aegon has been doing? I think they've been in again at the front end of digital journey, even when they started off with insurance products. If I'm not wrong, Rupesh, Aegon was the first company to launch a fully online term insurance plan in
That's
India,
correct.
right? So,
Yeah.
okay, no further questions. Then thanks, Rupesh. I'm just moving on to discussion with Parag.
Thank you. And before I end my speech, I must say that it's a wonderful initiative. The book has come very well, and whatever time that everybody had put up. Also, it's very interesting to understand how everybody has gone through the same kind of situations. It's not something which only one of us had to bear with that. So, thanks for this wonderful initiative to all of you, Team FIMO. Thanks.
Thank you.
So thanks, Rupesh. And you kept encouraging and asking us, what's the next step, when it is coming. So that was good. And you rightly mentioned, right, that some lessons are common, and then there are unique aspects in every interview, right? There are unique aspects for each one, and I think that's where the peer learning element comes in.
Sure.
Yeah. Moving on to Parag Kulkarni, the Chief Information Security Officer at Bajaj Finance Limited. Welcome, Parag.
Hi everyone.
Just giving a brief profile of Parag for everybody. Parag Kulkarni is an information and cybersecurity professional with 16 years enriched experience, heading the corporate information security function for the auto finance division. He established and implemented enterprise-wide information security programs covering 5,000 plus users across 40 plus locations in India. He was also awarded the InfoSec Maestro's Top 100 CISOs in 2019 and a CISO Platform Top 100 CISOs for 3 consecutive years from 2018 to 2020. Congratulations, Parag. Excellent achievements there.
Thanks, Rajesh.
It's just, in terms of your contributions, Parag, thanks for the contributions for the coffee table book as well, and some of the questions based on what you had shared with us during the interview process. The COVID situation has surfaced the importance of having digital communication channels, both for your customer-facing and operational teams. How do you see these channels evolving over time?
Sure. So before I answer that question, Rajesh, just want to quickly take a few minutes to give my big thanks to Ivyamo, Yamini, Ambind, Roshan, Kunjan as well. This has come really amazing than what I expected when I saw first time. It was really wow moment. That's what I mentioned in my note to Kunjan. So really, it is quite distinguishing from other coffee table books what I have seen. So great job, everyone, and especially thanks for making us much beautiful than what we actually see. So thanks for that. Just to answer your question, Rajesh, I would say this is again quite older now. We have been into the post-COVID situation for a year now. But as far as digital channels are concerned, I would agree to what Ikhlaq said earlier, that it is physically contactless, but I would add to that saying that it is virtually more connected, or it is more involved with your customers, your internal team, or your external parties as well. So take example of your customers, as everyone has already spoken about it, that all these digital channels now have become a new normal, or that's a new way to interact with the customers. So even if you walk into the customer tomorrow, they may not prefer you come in that. Forget whether COVID exists or not, but it is I would say it is more convenient approach, or they say it is more quicker approach to reach out for their customer service aspects, or even for that matter, take examples of your internal teams, right? The teams you are working with them, they are also quite comfortable with them. So if tomorrow if you happen to meet someone, they would be rather more interested to get on Teams call, right? That's how the internal teams have also changed with their approach in terms of interacting with you. Same goes with the external parties also. I personally never thought that audits can happen flawlessly over remote call. So my external audits have happened very well as it used to happen earlier over a remote station. Same goes with the third-party audits we do for our vendors. All those 15, 20 audits, we used to believe that we have to go to the customer vendor site and conduct the audit, then only it will bring the effectiveness. I don't see that is the case anymore. So with such external parties also, I feel that digital channels have really done well, and then that will continue to do well. So I would say that in that sense, many of the areas where we used to believe that we have to be physically present, then only it would add effectiveness, or then only it would give value-added service to the customers. I don't feel that's the right statement to do. So in short, I would say the benefits what we have got out of these digitalization is it is much quicker, it is much interactive when you interact with the customer. Equally, it is flawless as well. It has helped us to give the services in a much flawless manner. And as a CISO or as a senior professional, everyone would agree it has definitely saved cost in many of the areas. I won't say all of the areas, but many of the areas, you initially you got a feeling that we have to make technology investment to interact with the customer, to interact with the external parties. But if you see from long-term perspective, it has definitely helped us selling certain parts in our pockets. So I would say these are the benefits with the digital channels.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, having invested time and effort and resources now, this obviously is going to yield more benefits going forward as well as you continue building on top of this and engaging with the customers, having, let's say, intelligence layers on top of this technology and using that to your benefit. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And the other question that I had, Parag, was with respect to the CISO role itself. And I believe you did mention that the CISO role will evolve to a more thoughtful risk management job. And so what do you envision that the role of the CISO is going to be in the post-pandemic world?
Well, as I said, now we are into post-pandemic world for almost a year now. So we already got learnings. Yeah, we already got learnings out of it. We already know, or I would say we are already well aware about our risk exposure, right? Because in a year's time, it is a good time to know that how much maturity you have or how many risks are really bothering you. But I will mention a couple of points which I see. This is my experience of last year, and which would be probably you can say KRS for security professional. Is the first one in the list, I would say, is more that relooking at your attack surface. It has to be redefined. It is no more with limited set of risk you carry, because it is now no more work from office or no more work from home, but it is work from anywhere. That's the concept that we have to embrace, that work from anywhere is possible. So when we say that, we actually need to go back to the attack surface and see that whether it is really making sense to the current situation. So that's the first point I would like to mention. Second is, everyone would agree that now CISO's role is more to closely working with the top management, closely working with the board, continuously in touch with CEO. So they are also equally involved. So it is no more in isolation. The security department would be working, but it is more that they would be sharing the table with the top management. So that kind of role, I would say CISO would be playing going forward. The third I can mention, it is more to do with the CISO has to be much quicker in their actions now, because the kind of risk we have seen, the kind of exposure we are getting because of the work from anywhere scenario, they have to be much quick in terms of, let's say, doing the procurement, doing the product review, any kind of research work they do. Everything has to be done much in a quicker manner, because that is the expectation of the other parties also. That is what the top management also would be expecting, that if they happen to deploy a particular technology tomorrow, or if they do add more digital channels, they would expect that CISO also be much quick enough, so it really brings value from security perspective, right? And that has been the role of CISOs since beginning. But I would say, given the situation now, that will be the expectation in terms of quick action. And last and not the least, which very few CISOs or security professionals talk about, is, are you really focusing on your mental health? Are you really knowing what risk your body has, what risk your mind has? Because that is equally important. You really experienced how much you're stressed out in last year or so, and that is going to be the situation going forward. Are you really taking care good of your health? So that is equally important. That I can say that is a message for every professional, security professional out there. that do care of yourself, because that is the only thing that remains until your last breath, right? Everything is probably not will remain with you, money, family, and everything. But unless you care about yourself, unless you assess the risk to your health, I think you are in danger. So that's what I see. Yeah.
Well, actually, fair point. And this is yeah, sometimes neglected as well. As you rightly mentioned, the mental health bit is a very important risk factor to be considered.
Yeah.
I'll separately discuss with you how are you managing to do this as well, right? I mean, one, it is important, but what are the ways in which you're managing that? Last but not the least, Parag, wanted to check with you. You're the only CISO member on this panel. How does that feel, and how is that different?
Well, I feel great, but initially I was doubtful that whether I'm just happening here because they were probably not aware that my role in much detail. But on a serious note, obviously it looks great to be there on the page. As I said, it is not what the title you carry, what the title of these members are carrying, but their real-time experiences, their stories. I think that talks more. That's something I would help all of us, right? It is not just who is reading, but the other members, what they have mentioned. I think their thoughts, those are equally important. So as I go through the coffee table book, I would say it is more than just a coffee table book. It will be more of a knowledge source from security and overall IT perspective. So I think this probably becomes more of a handbook. And then, as someone really mentioned that I'm not sure how many have really made an attempt to do this, taking benefit of this pandemic situation, because everyone was thinking more from a negative perspective, right? The continuity is affected, family, and then on the health front, everything is not working well. But I think the team really did a good job taking benefit out of this situation and then put those thoughts formally on paper, so the next generation also will able to see that if, anyway, this probably could be a normal going forward. But if someone really go back to the history and see that how people survived during that time on the business or on the security front, I think this book will be of a great resource for them. So again, great job.
No, yeah, thanks, Parag. Thanks, Parag, for such a wonderful and kind words. We were very well aware of your role, and we did wanted to reach out to you. In fact, you've been very prompt on email. Really very prompt. That's what I remember. And Rajesh, yes, he is a fitness freak. Even in our interaction towards the end, he had mentioned, about that. And Parag, you are right. In fact, on another project, when I was interviewing with a CIO in a healthcare organization, right, in a hospital chain, and I asked him about the priorities. He said, we don't have a CISO. We need to have. And while we are doing everything, but my team or we are not fully prepared. So CISO, I think, as a role is very prominent. It has only gone up. There has been the number of attacks which has got increased, and especially for the BFSI sector, right? And as you also mentioned, that it is not also about the role, right? And I think security is now not only a CIO or a CISO, but it's also a CEO, CXO, or a board agenda, which you rightly mentioned, and you have to work, along with them. So I think security will continue to be very important. And so good, and it was very important for us to have that voice. Otherwise the coffee table book would have been incomplete, without that. So thank you so much. Thanks so much for your contribution.
Yeah, thanks, Parag. Moving to Mr. Shubhajit Roy, SVP and Head Information Technology, SBI Funds Management. Welcome, Mr. Shubhajit, and thanks once again for participating in this initiative. So just a brief profile of Mr. Shubhajit. Mr. Shubhajit Roy heads Information Technology at SBI Funds Management Private Limited. Everybody knows it's an asset management company for SBI Mutual Fund and the largest AMC in the country as per AUM. With over 28 years of diversified experience, he has rich experience managing and leading IT and information security functions in the financial services domain. Welcome once again, Mr. Shubhajit.
Thank you.
Just wanted to check with you about, you did mention about talking to us about how paperless approval systems, which you have invested in, and how they have helped bring efficiencies at scale You also spoke about contextual data and analytics being available for sales going forward. Could you throw some light on this and elaborate a bit more on these aspects?
Yeah, thank you. If I understood your first question, you're talking about this, the mentioned I have talked about this online approval kind of system.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a very, very, I don't know. So again, coming back to the same question, this pandemic really helped us to accelerate many of these digital efforts and initiatives, so which is applicable for most of the companies, which if I listen through carefully, so which is internally as well as externally. So this is one of the examples of internal digital initiative, because most of the traditional companies used to have this kind of paper-based approval system. And since most of the legacy and old hierarchy-based organization like SBI Mutual Fund, where you need to have a lot of approval, especially any kind of, especially financial approval, and there's a lot of structure around which we call financial delegation of powers. Who can approve what? Everything is clearly defined based on your position and the kind of account sets. And also non-financial, everything has been hierarchy based since the organization is more hierarchy based. And so this has been a long requirement. We tried to have a system which online we can approve. So this pandemic actually helped us to push that through, because most of the people were a lot of resistance in going from the paper based, because most of the people were still, especially on the top, people were not comfortable on the, but this has helped us to push it through, which we are trying for last few many years. So that is one. So it was now successful, and it is quite, I think, beneficial, and we try to leverage and to enhance that to make a full cycle in terms of not only approval, especially on the IT side, purchase order, budgeting, expenses, and everything. We're trying to link it together so it can be a full cycle for us. And your second question is more on the, I'm talking about more maybe sales, marketing, and other initiatives, which are more external facing, on the customer and distributor facing. So here a lot of work has been going on for, I think, last few years. I think maybe 3-4 years at least, to almost 5 years, where we started more focus on the customer distribution from the data perspective, right?
Right.
So that has, I think, last 5 years emphasis has been there to look at. So if you look at, so our company 5 years back, I think we are number 6 in the AUM wise in the mutual fund industry.
Right.
So now we are number 1 since last almost 1 year, and I think, and we are trying to consolidate our position also. So I think one of the major driver or accelerator or trigger for this is the data and data driven. So where we can, if you look at like a big elephant like SBI has been turned around from SBI Mutual Fund side, because SBI has become the largest distributor of SBI Mutual Fund today. So it was not an easy task to turn around through SBI, because it's a huge organization. It's a huge potential, but there's a lot of is a big giant, right? So it's not easy to turn around that kind of giant, because there's a legacy. And so data obviously one of the big elements of this turnaround for our company. So data in front, internally for the customer, sales and marketing and corporate communication side. And the other side, we have the two, you have to address, you have to fight in 2 ways. One is the retail or distributor-led business, and second is the direct business, which are mostly institutional and corporates. So we have now created so many channels based on the business, right? On the retail side, on the distribution side. And so there are various relationship managers based on channels and sub-channels. So we have to cater to all these people, and also we have to cater to the customers on the digital front, where people invest
online directly without any distributor advisor. So that contextual data and that has become really big, and we are trying to take it to the next level with the advanced data analytics platform like a data lake and similar platform, maybe, which will talk about the big data and structured data also. So that is our plan. And similarly, we are trying to see how cloud we can leverage at the same time. So there are a lot of, yeah. I would like to, after you finish, I'd like to talk to ask Yamini also, because I see a lot of, most of your focus is on the insurance sector. Most of the people today and in your book, you have covered insurance. So Yamini, since she has met all the, almost, I know, how many people are there in this book? I forget them.
Out of the 16, if I'm not mistaken.
Sorry, 16?
16, yes.
Yeah, and largely, if I'm not wrong, insurance, right? Both life and non-life.
Yes.
So you can tell me what they are doing, which are better than maybe mutual fund other, because you have the benefit of meeting everybody, and you are. So if you can give me some heads up, it will be good for me also.
No, definitely. And Mr. Roy, we will probably schedule a separate call for this, right? Lots to share there. Also, we work with Aditya Birla Mutual Fund, their AMC team,
yeah, I know that.
UTI team. So let's actually, we're happy to share a bunch of these learnings on the side here.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think thanks for your time, Mr. Shubhajit, and your comments. I think I'll with this hand over to Gunjan. I think we are nearing the end of the time that we have for this call, right?
Yeah, Rajesh, and thank you so much, Rajesh, for talking to everyone and sharing with us more insights. And also, it was thrilling to hear these digital changemaker stories firsthand when we have them on the book, but to hear it from them directly on the call, I mean, that has been really great. And so I guess this brings us to the close of today's evening's program. On behalf of the CIO Association of India and VIMO, we'd like to thank everyone who took out the time today evening to join us and has been a part along the journey with us. In this book, it was indeed a privilege to profile these change makers whose actions not only helped their organizations turn adversity into strength, but in fact, it helped a country's entire industrial leapfrog into the future. These were leaders, many of whom function at the overlap of digital, IT, security, infrastructure, and businesses, and they were tasked with ensuring business continuity at their organizations. Grab your copy of the book from www.getvimo.com/changemakers, or reach out to us at hello@getvimo.com. And it's just a loss of words to what a journey it has been. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. Hope you have a great evening ahead.
Yeah, thank you everyone for joining.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks everyone. Great initiative. Thanks.
Thanks everyone.
Yeah, thanks Parag.
Yeah, bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, bye.